Good morning, good morning. Well, it's a great honor to come and speak for you guys again. I have no idea why you keep inviting me back. I'm going to try to get through this as slowly as possible. I have the tendency to read really fast, so I'm going to shoot for about 5 hours, so stay comfortable. I had a list of jokes, that was the one I picked. But I would like to talk to you about a character in fiction that beyond all other types of character, this is a superhero. He has stood alone as the most popular. He's sold the most franchise comic books. He's sold the most merchandise. And he's just been lasted one of the longest legacies of all time. And that superhero is Superman. I even got my Superman Converse on, in case you didn't notice that. But the cool thing about Superman is that he really didn't become popular till World War II. That's when his legacy was really established. And he became the epitome of the symbol for truth, justice, and does anybody else know the third one? The American way, yeah. Although Henry Cavill is British, so if you follow today's movies, it's truth, justice, and the British way. He's great. He did a great job. But the movie itself is looking to be one of the most profitable franchises to date. The first Superman movie alone beat out every other origin superhero movie, meaning the first movie for that superhero, the first Captain America movie, the first Thor movie, the first Batman movie. It beat out all those movies by at least $400 million. So you can see the kind of effect that a symbol like Superman can have on people. You know, the cool thing about Superman is that he inspired people during times like the golden age of comic books, which was around World War II, to do good things because that's just the way to do it. He gave people a hope that there was something for doing good things. There was something good that can come out of just being a good person, an average good person. And he continues to inspire people today, which is why he makes such incredible movies. But, you know, at the end of the day, Superman is just a fictional comic book character. I would like you to turn to Hebrews 11:1. I'm going to start out with that real quick. And while you're turning to that, I also want to talk to you about this thing my father had started out with when we first started this series, which is what he said, which was that you can live weeks without food, you can live days without water, you can even live seconds without air, but you can't live for one moment without hope. And it says here in Hebrews 11:1, now faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. Most people, when they read this passage, they think that this entire chapter, Hebrews 11, is talking about faith. But the real awesome thing about it is that all the faith that they had came from the great hope that they had in God, the great promise that they drew from in God. Their faith was just the strength that they were pouring into that hope to keep it alive. Faith is your strength that keeps your hope alive. Hope is what you pour that strength into. What is hope? Hope is what motivates you. Hope is a promise that makes you want to succeed beyond your circumstances. Hope makes you want to be more than you are. At all moments of the day, you are living in some kind of hope. Hope is usually, in our world, kind of thought of as a psychological term, optimism, but they're not exactly the same thing. See, optimism is looking upon your own situation and trying to see the more favorable side or trying to make it seem less bad in some way. Oh man, I just lost my job. That's okay, there's a million jobs out there. Or, oh man, my kids hate me. But you know what? If I was their age, I would hate me too. It seems kind of weird, huh? That's because optimism can sometimes deny reality. Sometimes things really are that bad. There is real pain and suffering in the world. You know, it's funny, I have a friend she is one of those friends that lives in like a constant state of bliss. Does anybody have those friends where it doesn't matter what happens to them. They have to try so hard to make that thing seem like it's the best thing that's ever happened to them. It really didn't matter what happened to her. She didn't have enough gas to get to school. Maybe she got a bad grade, or she fell down and got a huge bruise. Somehow that became the best thing that ever happened to her. But the great thing about it is nowadays she actually works at Disney World. So the happiest place on earth has the happiest person on earth. So I think we all need to go to Disney World sometime this year. But you know what's funny about it is if you meet her, you actually wouldn't think that she would be the type of friend that I would have, because she's very outgoing. She's always got to be doing something crazy, something always fun and stuff like that. I'm just a little bit more conservative. I like to have fun, but I don't like to hurt myself all the time. But she's a great person. But you know what? There was times in her life where even the bliss and stuff that she would use from herself to kind of look more favorable upon her situations wasn't really enough. And she turned to me for those things. And I was kind of surprised at that too, because I'm not really an expert in anything in life. I'm not a counselor. But I think there's something that she saw in me. There was a kind of hope she saw that was capable of getting her through her situations. Because when you go through life trying to make your own situation seem less bad, it can just really start to become a huge weight that's put upon you. Optimism can be good, but it can't get you through everything. Optimism can only take you so far. There was a recognition in her that there was something in me that could help her get through this struggle. You know, hope doesn't deny reality. Optimism is a psychological term. Hope is a theological term. Hope is being able to look upon any situation in any circumstance and know that God is going to come through for you. Hope for us is Jesus. Jesus made hope a reality when he got up on the cross and died for us. He died to cover our sins and make us blameless so that we could have everlasting life and be in the presence of God. But more importantly than that, Jesus conquered death on his own. He rose from the grave and showed us all that death is not the end, that death is not the ultimate victor. But knowing Jesus really isn't enough either. I know Christians who don't have any hope. I'll tell you about one friend in particular at Southwestern. I was sleeping in my dorm one day. It was just not a great night for me, and I decided to kind of skip chapel. Don't tell anybody. And he came in because I guess he thought that I was going to chapels, and he wanted to talk to me about something. He kind of barged in, and I just, oh man, like first of all, he's one of those friends you just have this much patience for sometimes, and one of those friends you really need to lean on to Jesus for. No, I'm just kidding. He's a great guy. He's a really, really funny guy. But I just got a little upset at him because it was really early in the morning. I was extremely tired. I stayed up all night doing studying and doing homework and stuff. And I got kind of mad at him. I was like, Theron, why did you come in my room? And that kind of upset him, and he left. So I quickly got up and went after him. I was still clothed because I fell asleep in my clothes. Not a great night. And so I found him, and I said, Theron, look, I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean to get so upset at you. And he proceeded to tell me about something that had taken place that he'd done that he really regretted. And again, I saw that thing people were coming to me for, and I was just like, why? I'm no expert in these things. Like, I'm not a counselor. But again, I think he saw this kind of hope in me that was greater than his own situation. There was that same recognition in him that there was something in me that could help him get through his struggle. He saw hope and stability. He himself knew Jesus, but the guy didn't have any real hope. I've even seen people in leadership, presidents promising great hope for a nation when they themselves don't have any hope. But you know what? There was times in my life too where I didn't have any hope. But you know what? I decided to make a change about 4 months before going to school, because I felt that God was kind of pressuring me and wanting me to enroll into Southwestern. I'd always wanted to go there, but I just didn't really see a method or a way that I could get into the school. The one thing that I decided to do instead was just go to a community college to get rid of some of the credits, basic credits, so that I could at least make it more affordable, but I really didn't believe that I would end up going there at any point. But I made a promise to God after being pressured for so long that if this is the place I'm supposed to go, I just need enough money to get there. I just need enough. And through all these different circumstances, talking to my counselor, he was a great guy. He was managed to find me a few last-minute scholarships. This is all very last minute. If you're enrolling in the spring, at that close to the time when school's about to start, there's no scholarship money left. There's very little grant money left. There's just not really much of anything. But he was able to find me enough, and from outside sources, I was able to get some too as well. And it just was a complete miracle that I was able to get there. But an even cooler thing about getting there was I told God as well that if he would give me opportunities, that I would go ahead and try and take them. One opportunity in particular was that I was going to be studying a lot. I was going to be doing a lot of schoolwork, things like that. But I would also have a lot of free time that I'm not used to. So I said, okay, maybe I'll just go and find a job. The best job that could work for me would be just a job at the school. So I got dressed that first day after my parents left. They were doing chapel in their new building. We call it the HCC. It's the Hagee Communication Center. And I put together an application, and I went there to try and find somebody I could turn into the application to. There was a college fair going on, but it really wasn't a place to turn in the application. It was just kind of a bunch of businesses advertising for volunteer positions or internships, things like that. But I did find one guy. His name was Brent Gwynn, and he said that he would be able to take my application. And I met him and talked to him for a little bit. I actually thought he was a student, but later it turned out that he was one of the admissions counselors that needed a student worker. So that was another real incredible thing that happened with that meeting. And then I actually got the job being a student worker. And the greatest blessing from him was that he introduced me to a lot of people. I made a lot of friends from knowing him. And it was just an incredible thing to be able to have that opportunity. He also did a really cool thing later on when he during the end of the year, he was actually selected to be on the donor scholarship committee. So he actually helped put my name forward for a donor scholarship. And I actually received one of those as well for next semester. So if I didn't get up that one morning and decide that I was going to follow through with the hope that I had that God was going to provide, then I would have never received all these things later on down the line. And even this thing I have going on Monday, I'm leaving for a traveling worship group. We're doing New Mexico, North Texas, and South Texas youth camps. And we're playing for all these thousands of kids, helping them lead them to Christ. But even that position was opened up for meeting Brent because there was a person in that office who invited me to their youth group to help play drums for them on Wednesdays. And the pastor of that church for that youth group was actually the lead worship person for Southwestern. They ran all the chapels and everything, and they also ran the group that I'd be traveling with. So when it came time for auditioning, she was able to go around and ask the people that I worked with at that youth group about me, about my character, and she really liked who I was, and it turned out that I was a good fit for the team. So all these things came about simply because I wanted to follow through with the hope that God was going to provide for me, and he was going to lead me somewhere and to do great things for him. But hope isn't really a guaranteed financial blessing. Hope can come in many, many shapes. It's just going after God and trusting him. You know, I'd like you to open up real quick to John 21. 2 through 7. It's funny, I imagine in my head the sound of rustling paper, but I know nowadays that everyone's got an iPad or an iPhone, so Now you hear less of that. But it says here in John 21:2, Simon Peter and Thomas, called the twin, Nathanael of Cana in Galilee, the sons of Zebedee, and two others of his disciples were together. Simon Peter said to them, "I'm going fishing." They said to him, "We will go with you." They went out and got into the boat, but that night they caught nothing. Just as day was breaking, Jesus stood on the shore, yet the disciples did not know that it was Jesus. Jesus said to them, "Children, do you have any fish?" They answered him, "No." He said to them, "Cast the net on the other side of the boat, and you will find some." So they cast it. And now they were not able to haul it in because of the quantity of fish. That disciple whom Jesus loved therefore said to Peter, "It is the Lord." When Simon Peter heard that it was the Lord, he put on his outer garment, for he was stripped for work, and threw himself into the sea. You know, Simon Peter was the same disciple that had looked his hope square in the face and denied his existence 3 times. Can you imagine getting to the point where you believe that the thing that woke you up in the morning, the thing that provided for you and thousands of people, the thing that you were so excited to share with the rest of the world, you believe that that thing can't provide for you anymore and is not big enough to stand up to the accusers that accused you? Peter had lost hope. He was living a hopeless life. In fact, if you live a hopeless life, that's really no life at all. In fact, where Jesus found them, they were back doing the thing they had used to be doing before they were following Jesus, which was fishing. Peter had leaned more into his optimism about Jesus' mission than Jesus himself. He felt like he had failed, that after he denied Jesus, that Jesus couldn't use him anymore. But Jesus comes back and challenges Peter in John 21:15. When they had finished breakfast, Jesus said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" He said to him, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." He said to him, "Feed my lambs." He said to him a second time, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" He said to him, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." He said to him, "Tend my sheep." He said to him the third time, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" Peter was grieved because he said to him the third time, "Do you love me?" And he said, "Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you." Jesus said to him, "Feed my sheep. Truly, truly, I say to you, when you were young, you used to dress yourself and walk wherever you wanted. But when you are old, you will stretch out your hands, and another will dress you and carry you where you do not want to go." And can you just imagine Peter's joy when he sees Jesus on the shore and he realizes that it's him? Even though he had denied Jesus 3 times, he was the first person to jump into the water after him. I want to talk about putting faith into action. If we put our hope in Jesus, we need to put our faith into action in order to keep that hope alive. Faith is our belief in action that we can use to keep our hope alive. There will be times where, well, most of the time, where you are not going to feel optimistic about a situation or what you're doing. Maybe you can feel like what you're doing isn't really helping or affecting God's plan on your life. Sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, based off of what God has done for you in the past, you're going to have to put your faith ahead of what you feel. Now, this is not the same as faking it. You're faithing it. You can quote that later. It's okay to expect that God will provide and support you. And Jesus follows through with this when he says in Matthew 11:29, "Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls." He's saying there that if you take on my plan, if you take on my hope and you trust in me, then I will provide ways for you to do the things that I want you to do. If you think God is leading you to do something but don't feel capable of taking on that responsibility, you can have hope that God will provide for you the strength and the capabilities to do those things. Ladies and gentlemen, hope is what inspires us to do more than we thought possible. One of the greatest feats in human history was landing on the moon. There's more technology in your cell phone than there was in that entire rocket. But you know what's really cool is the very first words out of the astronaut's mouth as they were looking back at Earth, leaving the atmosphere was what? Anybody know? Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Hope goes beyond our understanding. There's a reason we cannot see what will go on tomorrow. First of all, because we'd screw it up. But there's specific divine appointments that God has for you every day. He's done things for you, or He's doing things for you today. He's setting up things for you today so that greater things can happen in your life tomorrow. He's done great things in your life yesterday so that even greater things than those can happen in your life today. As we put our trust in God, greater things shall we do. John 14:21 says, "Very truly I tell you, whoever believes in me will do the works I have been doing, and they will do even greater things than these, because I am going to the Father." As Christians, our hope is embodied in Jesus. Jesus is hope. As we leave here today, we're obligated by our hope to be the very best we possibly can be. We're called to love beyond all understanding. People with no hope say, "I'm going to sleep 5 more minutes. I'm tired." People with hope jump out of bed ready to take on the day. People with no hope say, "This job is all I'll ever be good at." But people with hope pray for God to give them the opportunity to use their gifts and experience to affect the people around them to advance His kingdom. People with no hope say, "Jesus is coming back, but that's not for a long time, so I've got time." People with hope say, "Jesus is coming today, and I want to stand in the audience of angels knowing that the love of Christ in me was used to affect the people around me." People with no hope say, "I'm not going to church today, I have too much to do." People with hope say, "I'm putting God first in my life, and I'm going to worship Him." You know, I was watching a sermon by T.D. Jakes to help kind of prepare for this, just resourcing a lot of things. But he had one sermon on hope. The thing I love about him is sometimes there's sections in his sermon where he'll say one thing for 8 minutes, and people just go nuts. It's like, man, that'd be great. Just Jesus, you know. No, but he said one thing in particular. He said that people with hope come to church and they sit on the edge of their seats and they say, come on, I want to hear something. I didn't come to church today to show off my tie. I want to hear something that will either affect me in a way or change me in a way or give me something that I can use to affect other people. What I'm trying to get here mostly is that people of hope believe in Jesus and recognize that there is a hope in Him that goes beyond our understanding. We cannot possibly come close to fully realizing the things God has in store for us. So we have to put our faith before our understanding of our hope and trust that God is going to fill us up and make a way for those things. That's kind of exciting, right? God has something new in store for you each and every day. You know, when I also went to Southwestern, there was incredible things that happened, but there was a lot of things that challenged the faith that I had before in a good way. Because there was things I really had struggle believing. One of those things was divine healing. But it was really cool. We had a prayer seminar, and a pastor of a local church called Freedom Fellowship International, he felt called at the end of one of these seminars to pray over people, gather people, pray over groups for divine healing of bones. And I was like, well, I want to see this. Like, let's be a part of this. And something really profound happened where I really felt that because of people's obedience to want to engage God and experience Him in such a new and incredible and profound way, that incredible things began to take place. I really did see people take their casts off and bones were actually healed. And there was other things that I had learned about at school, and I really don't want to get into a theological debate about evidential tongues, so we'll just skip that altogether. But when Pentecostalism first became popular, one of the incredible things to me that had taken place was there was a church on a street called Azusa Street in Los Angeles, California, And people would come to that church by the hundreds and the thousands and just stay there all day, lined up against the wall, waiting on the Lord for a chance to experience him in an incredible way. What kind of hope and faith do we have to have in order to want to experience God in new, incredible, and profound ways? You know, I first heard that perspective of hope of John 21, where Jesus had went to the disciples and told them to cast their net on the other side. When I was going to a church called Seven City Church on Sundays at Southwestern, I was playing drums for them, and I also kind of helped out with the children's service. And I was helping a friend of mine, she's the children's pastor. I was helping her read through her sermon, kind of helping her prepare notes. And I was reading this perspective, and it really started to pull at me for some reason, but I really didn't pay any attention to it until after the second service. I had finished playing drums, and I went back there to help out with the children, and I heard her speaking on this, and it really just broke me down. That part where Peter sees Jesus and jumps into the water. He's the first person to run after him and go embrace him. And the reason that is because there was plenty of times in my life where I felt like I had failed him, that I had lost my hope, that I felt that there was a point that I had crossed where God couldn't use me anymore. And imagine Peter, too, having denied Jesus 3 times, denied ever knowing him or loving him or being a part of his ministry. What can you do? You feel like, God, there's nothing left for me to do. I failed you. I'm just going to go back to the way things were. I'm just going to go back fishing. But you know what? I realized that Peter didn't want to go back to the way things were. And I believe that we don't want to go back to the way things were. God's called us to something greater today. He wants us to believe and put our faith in that hope, even though we may not always understand it. But there's great things that can happen because of that. So I want to invite you to stand and pray with me for a second. And just bow your heads for a moment. And just think about, you don't have to raise your hands, but how many of us just want to be able to experience God in those new and profound ways, to reawaken that hope in us, that new and incredible thing each day that God has in store for us is for each and every one of us. Lord, I pray right now to be humbled, Lord, before you. I realize with full confidence that there is something today for me. There's been things that have happened yesterday for these appointments to be impactful for us or for other people today. Something great and profound has been made into our lives. Each and every one of us has something in our lives that we are going to use for you, God. And that's where we find our ultimate fulfillment, Lord. We have a hope in you that doesn't want to go back to the way things were. We hope beyond those things. We hope beyond being the fisherman. We want to hope for the things of you, God, the things we don't understand. Because it's only through those things that great and mighty things can happen. That divine miracles can take place, that divine appointments can be made for your kingdom, Lord. Lord, I just pray that throughout our week our eyes be open to your plan, that we can see these things coming together because of our hope and our faith and our trust that we're putting in you each day. We may not understand why we have to do this thing at this second, why we have to do that thing at that moment, but open our eyes to be able to see the fruition of those things so that you can show us that you are trustworthy, that you are something worthy of putting trust in, of putting our strength in. But also, Lord, I pray that we be supplemented and supplied for these things. Maybe we've gone through a hard week. We're going through hard months, a hard year. Families are sick. There's debt crushing down on us. But I pray that if you want us to do great and mighty things, that those things be provided for. Fill us back up with strength. Bless us in ways that we can't imagine. But also, Lord, I pray that we be sensitive to the appointments that you make for us towards other people. Lord God, I pray that we just take this into our week, that we hear something today that we can use to tell other people about, that we can be excited about. And I pray that as we close this message today and we go into the next series, that you're going to work something great today. In your Son's holy and precious name we pray. Amen.